Hey y'all, welcome back to Fat Kid Yoga Club. I'm Mark and this is Cosmo, but y'all already know him. Today is the first day of our back to school yoga challenge and our theme is opening your heart and your mind. And if you're like me, the start of a new school year is just so exciting. I'm always excited about the new possibilities and the new opportunities that come as an instructor, as a student. I love to learn. I'm a nerd like that. And so I hope that you are too, and that you're equally excited about this challenge. And so thinking about opening our hearts and opening our minds, a really great asana that we could practice, or a few asanas that we could practice, are back bends or chest openers. And so I'm going to share with you some of my favorite chest openers today. And so I've got a few props here, and I know that many of you are practicing from home and that you don't have a full studio worth of props. And I would say that's okay. Most of what I'm going to show you, I can also offer some suggestions in terms of how you can substitute things that you might already have laying around the house instead of using props. But honestly, if you plan on having a long-term yoga practice, or maybe if 2 or 3 months go down the road, or 6 months, or maybe you've been practicing for a year, I'd say it's maybe time to start investing in some yoga props, particularly because these props really help to support you in your practice. And so, I could ramble all day about the benefits of props, but I'm going to tell you what I've got here. So, I've got 2 yoga blocks. These are the big yoga blocks that I got from yogaaccessories.com. You don't necessarily need to have big blocks for this. I'll show you how they're used later. I've got a yoga blanket, and obviously any other type of blanket or towel could be a substitute. And I've also got a bolster, and just a firm cushion or a couple pillows stacked on top of one another can be a good alternative to a bolster for how we're going to use them today. So when I'm talking about back bends, I'm talking about postures that begin to lift the sternum and take the spine into extension. And so we're going to experiment a little bit with that lying down, because my favorite chest openers happen to be restorative postures. So if you're not into any of the options that I give, yoga challenges are great because it's really a choose your own adventure thing. Any other back bend that you love, maybe you really love cow, maybe you really love bridge, maybe you love sphinx, any of those are great options. You don't have to do what I'm doing here. I'm just sharing with you my favorites. And so I'm going to clear some of this out of the way. And we're going to start with our blanket, and I'm going to put the blocks off to the side as well. And if you've practiced with me for a while now, you may have even tried this a time or two. And so we're going to set up in a supported fish with our blanket. And so there's a few ways that you could do this. I've got my blanket here. So this is folded in half, right? And if you're using a yoga blanket, folding it in half again. And from here, I'm going to begin to roll it up. So I'm going to place it long ways or width ways on my mat. And I'm going to roll it up. And how much you roll depends on you. You could also flip it around and roll it along the short edge, and you'll get a larger roll. But since we're just starting off here, I'm going to have a little bit less intense option. And so I set my roll down, and then I lie down, and I find the roll to be along my shoulder blades. So the roll will be pressing up into the shoulders, and my shoulder heads will maybe find their way down to the mat. And so let's zhuzh my way in. And for me, I like to take my arms out wide. You might like to take the arms out into like this soft diamond shape with the one hand resting in the other over the head. I like to keep my knees bent, legs could be straight. You can experiment with what feels right for you. The cactus arms is a nice option as well. And as you settle in here, it definitely is going to feel like you've got a rolled up blanket or towel behind you. And it may be uncomfortable. And notice if that's like a discomfort you can sit with, but certainly if it's painful, we don't want that. And so I would invite you to go ahead and come on out, and you could always unroll your roll. And I'm not going to stay here very long. You can stay as long as feels appropriate for you. Maybe closing the eyes or lowering the gaze. Taking a few breaths. And allowing the body to be heavy. And you can definitely feel the roll pressing into the shoulder blades. The shoulder blades press forward up into the chest. And you might find some soft opening in the armpits. So that's option number one. If you're finished with that, or once you're finished with it, you can scoot your roll out of the way. And then I like to usually lay flat for a few breaths. Just taking it in. It might be nice to add a little twist one way and the other after doing that. You decide. This really is your adventure, so choose what works for you. Option number 2 today is going to be to set ourselves up in a reclined position with our bolster. So I'll show you how you might do that. And so I'm just going to place this bolster flat on my mat. And you could come to lie down across the bolster. For me, it feels like I need a little something to support my head, right? So I can put my roll, that's actually the perfect size, right? And from here, I can lie across the top of my bolster. Again, I feel the shoulder blades pressing up into the chest. I'm getting some release in the armpits, across the top of the chest, even in the ribs a little bit. And I'm really surprised that this is working for me today. Sometimes when I lie flat on this bolster, I get a little bit of tension in my low back. If that's something that happens to you, I would encourage you to prop the bolster up. So I want to show you how I do that. And I just want to show you these new blocks that I got. These are called Unglue blocks. And they're new. They're used for giving you a little bit of support in meditation. I'm going to be making a video about all different ways that you can use these blocks because I'm really enjoying them. But I like these blocks because they're already sort of on an incline. So I'm able to set them up side by side like this and then place my bolster on them, and my bolster is not going to go anywhere. You could do the same with your blocks, just building a little bit of an incline. So oftentimes I'll teach with that like L shape, right? And then you can place your bolster sort of long ways. Cool. So let me show you what this looks like if you're going to lie down on your bolster. So I come to sit and then lie flat. And here I've got my hands, you can't really see them in the camera frame, but I've got my hands palm spinning up, and the hands are resting on the floor. If your hands don't make it all the way down to the floor, you can support them with like a rolled up blanket or a pillow. And my hands right now are actually down a little bit more towards my side. And the wider you take the arms, the more opening, the more stretch you might feel in the armpits and across the chest. And perhaps the largest expression of this would be to take the arms up overhead. Some folks like to sort of loop their fingers in between the end of the bolster. You could allow the arms to dangle. That doesn't feel the best for me. But I sometimes like to sort of interlace holding the forearms And just allow my body to rest supported on the bolster. If you feel any sort of impingement in the shoulder like I'm getting here, I'm going to dial it back, right? Back like this. If you need some support under the head, you can. Legs could be outstretched. All sorts of options. Get curious. Figure out what feels good for you. And again, maybe you close the eyes or lower the gaze. Maybe you take a few rounds of breath here. And as you're ready, you can make your way up. And we'll find our way to another variation of supported fish. So for this version of supported fish, I'm going to use my yoga blocks. And this is probably the most intense version of this posture. Sometimes I call it the hardcore version. And the reason for that is, a rolled up blanket or towel, that's going to give you some pressure in the upper back, but it's also really soft. The same thing with the bolster, it's still generally pretty soft. These foam blocks are not very soft, and so this is going to be a little bit more pressure in the upper back. And if you're someone that has spinal injury in the cervical spine, this is probably, or the thoracic spine, your upper back, this is maybe something that you want to talk to your doctor or your physical therapist about before you try. But I'm going to set up 2 blocks, and I like to set up my blocks widthwise because my shoulders are going to rest, the shoulder blades, sorry, are going to rest on the top of the block and be supported. And so you could do this with the block at the medium height or the low height, whatever feels right for you. I'm going to try at the medium height to begin. So I've got both of my blocks kind of like an equal sign. And I'm going to have my blanket nearby too, because I think I might want a little padding for my head. We'll see. So just taking a moment here and making sure it's available and ready to go. And so same deal. Let me scoot this back a little bit more. Same deal here. I'm going to come to lie back. So once I feel the tips of my shoulder blades, the whole shoulder blade is on the block, then I can begin to lie back. I'm going to adjust this block that's behind my head, and I do want a little bit of cushion, so I'm going to give my blanket behind. Oh, that feels nice. And so from here, arms can be out wide, hands can be down by the sides. And again, several rounds of breath. Maybe closing the eyes or lowering the gaze. And as you're here, maybe you want to take the arms a little bit wider over time. Again, you could take the arms up overhead. That could be an approach as well. You're in control. Be curious, be open. But ultimately, try to find some ease. And once you're done, you'll make your way up, however you get there. And that's it. Those are my favorite chest opening back bends. They are really all variations of the same posture where we have the shoulder blades moving forward up into the chest, and that's taking the thoracic spine up and back into spinal extension. And that really is just 3 different levels of intensity. But like I said, choose the back bend or chest opener that feels best for you today. That could be cow, that could be sphinx, that could be cobra. Really choose your own adventure and leave a comment on this post and let me know which posture you chose, which of these variations you tried, which one you liked, maybe which one you didn't like. The idea behind this challenge as well is to do a little bit of community building and to have some mutual support along the way in this challenge. Y'all, I'm so excited for this week. I'm a little nervous because the school year is starting, but it's a good nervous, and I'm glad to be sharing this time with you. And stay tuned, I got another video coming for you tomorrow. See y'all later.